world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello there, Stanley Carr here. You know, I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. She is currently, at the time of this recording, the Ring of Honor Pure Women's Champion with AEW. The Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo, is on the show. Welcome, Deonna, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So you're from Livingston, New Jersey. Talk to me about your childhood and upbringing.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was just born there. I was born at St. Barnabas Hospital. So I don't know who years ago when I first started wrestling found that information out and was like, that's where she's from. But I actually grew up in Lake Apacon, which is not too far from Livingston. And I had a really great childhood. I was a cheerleader. I ran track. I did gymnastics. I have a twin brother. He played football. We had a great group of friends. And, as we talk about like getting involved and giving back and stuff, I'm really looking forward to actually going back to Lake Apacon, Jefferson Township, and doing some really cool things with them to raise awareness for the public school district.
That is so amazing. And I know you're very passionate about education, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, but you're very involved with athletics and sports. Was wrestling always something you'd been a fan of growing up?
Yeah, I started watching wrestling when I was about 9, and my brother watched wrestling all growing up. And so there was one night, I was actually grounded for whatever reason. I wasn't allowed to be watching TV, but I came downstairs to put my laundry in the laundry room, and he had Monday Night Raw on the TV. And that's the first time I remember seeing wrestling. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was like wielding a steel chair. And I was just like, how could you do that to somebody? And like, who would let someone do that to them? And I fell in love. And then I got to see the women do it. And I was like, oh, I think, like I said, I was a cheerleader, I was a gymnast, and I now strongly feel like they have so many similar qualities to professional wrestling. So I was like, I think if I could learn how to do that one day, I could be good at that. And I just never grew out of that phase.
Yeah, and it's interesting because acting is different from real life. And you start watching these characters like, ooh, look at what this guy's doing. Look at what this girl is doing. You can't get away with that, but it's like it's in your own little world getting the chance to play these characters, play these parts. And so you talk about representation, seeing how the women have evolved. Of course, you have your Trishas and your Litas and your Molly Hollies and all these ladies that are going out there. At some point you go, I can do this. I want to be in this business. What age did you know this is what I want to do?
Oh my gosh, when I was 9 years old.
So right at 9.
Yeah, I told my parents, I think I'm going to be a professional wrestler one day. And they were like, yeah, okay. And at that time, like, women weren't heavily featured. Women weren't having these, like, athletic showcases of matches. Like, women were very much the bra and panties match, the Playboy pillow fight. Like, and I thought well, I'm an athlete and I could definitely do more than that. So women as a whole could do more than that. And I think, yeah, at 9 years old, I was like, I'm gonna go to wrestling school when I'm 16 and I could drive myself there and I'll get a job so I can pay for it. And I'm going to change women's wrestling.
Just right at 9, this is what I want to do. I enter in wrestling school, and here I am. Let's go. So,
Yeah.
16 years old, start wrestling school. I've had so many people on the show talk to me about their experiences with training. It's a tough industry. You really have to go for 100%, put so much effort into this, sacrifice so much.
Yeah.
What was your experiences like learning how to wrestle?
Yeah, so to start at 16, you had to have your parents' signature, and my parents would not sign off on it. So I had to wait until I was 18. So when I graduated high school, 6 months later, that December, I was in wrestling school. And like being an athlete, the grind of the training and how you just have to like immerse yourself in it wasn't foreign to me, but it was like the taking the bumps and using different muscles that I had never used before. I remember my first day of training, they were like, yeah, you're gonna learn how to take a bump and you just fall backwards, and I was like, is there something else I could learn? Because I don't want to do that. That doesn't seem safe, right? I did it, and they were like, hey, we'll see you on Thursday, and I was like, yeah, yeah, no problem. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sore. And so now, obviously, 14 years later, right, my body's just accustomed to it. But I think that was the biggest shock, was like, oh man, like falling down for a living is going to be rough, but this is all I've ever wanted to do. So there was also that like nerves of, if I'm not good at this, what have I wasted, 9 years of my life planning to do? I don't have a backup plan. I always wanted to be a wrestler. So I need to get through this pain. I need to get through this struggle and build a callus, but then also like make sure I'm really good at this.
Yeah, it's like you really have to motivate yourself, give yourself encouragement like, hey, this is hard, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
doing this, push myself forward, and really go after this. So you're working with your trainers. What pieces of advice are they telling you that today you're still applying?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice that I was ever given was from Sean Bennett, who's a referee for WWE now. And he was there on my first day of training. He's like the big brother I never had. I love him so much. And he always said since day one to surround yourself with people whom you aspire to be like. And I think that's something I still hold really close to my heart today, to surround myself with people who are ambitious, who see big dreams for themselves and for the people around them, who celebrate each other, who can sit in the suck with you, but then also celebrate you at your biggest moments. I think I've really held that true throughout my whole career, through the people who are my closest friends and who I consider my family now. And so I think that's the best piece of advice I've ever been given.
Be around those that lift you up, not tear you down. You really want to surround yourself with people that have been there for so many years, that have experience, and that they're passing on that wisdom, that knowledge to you. So you start your training, you get out of training, you start wrestling. I know everybody's first match can be a little scary at first because you don't know what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
learning, and so what things do you feel like when you get that first match or two under your belt that you go, okay, this is what I need to work on, this is what I need to improve on going forward. I'm going to do this.
I think for me, it was just being in front of an audience. I was terrified to public speak all growing up. Like, I could not speak in front of the classroom. I dreaded being called on to read in front of the classroom. So I think going into wrestling, my biggest thing was like working on my confidence in terms of being in front of a room of people, being able to speak and project my voice in front of a room of people. If you talked to me 14 years ago, I couldn't have this interview. I was so painfully shy. I was so unconfident in who I wanted to present. I didn't have an idea of who Deonna Purrazzo would be at the time. So I think that that was probably the thing that I took away the most after my first match or two, was like, okay, you have to project to these people. You have to get them to feel something. You have to get them to like care about you and be emotional and vulnerable. And those are things that I didn't know how to do yet.
And the crowd is very, very a big part of what makes a wrestling event. And you have to really make sure that the crowd is behind you, that they're invested, like you talked about. And so you got to make sure that you're selling the feud, you're selling the show, and
Yeah.
the crowd really, really is a big part of that. So You share all these locker rooms with WWE, with TNA, now with AEW. You've been able to bump shoulders with so many different people. Anything that you've been able to take away from your time working with these veterans, and things that you've learned from since you've been in the business that you
Yeah.
care to share?
I think my time at TNA was so transformative for me in terms of like the character that I was presenting on television, but then also, yeah, getting to share the ring with Mickey James, getting to share the ring with Jazz, getting to share the ring with ODB, Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, the beautiful people, Madison Rain, like these OG knockouts legends. And then backstage we have Tracy Brooks, right? Who is now one of my favorite people in the whole world. I love her so much. And so just to be able to be in the ring with someone like Mickey James, who's told such incredible stories that also have been transformative for women's wrestling as a whole, being able to pick her brain and learn like what key elements of storytelling are important, how to be vulnerable. And, she was the baby face, the good guy, and I was the bad guy, but there were still moments where, okay, now she's beating me. She's finally taking me down. What does my character look like post championship? What does my character look like post these huge big matches that Mickey and I got to do? So I think that locker room and that environment with just such women that I respect who transformed this business before it was the cool thing to do, to be a knockout is something that I will hold close to my heart for the rest of my life before I get emotional about it. It was the greatest honor of my life.
And now you're with AEW and also spending some time with Ring of Honor, currently the Ring of Honor Pure Women's Champion.
Yeah.
Since your arrival there, you've had some amazing matches. Talk to me about some of the opponents you've been able to step in the ring with over there.
Yeah, I think diving into AEW and getting in the ring with Toni Storm so quickly was um, such a testament to what she was doing and how I was a piece of the puzzle of bringing timeless Toni Storm back to reality, right? And so, I think that people were so hype about me coming in and maybe didn't necessarily want to see me jump into a feud with the champion right away that I wasn't winning, but I think that set me up for a really great like 10-month run when I first got in, because doing that stuff with Toni Storm in the championship and Mariah led me right into working with Thunder Rosa when she came back from injury, and we did an awesome. I actually just tweeted about this last night. We did an awesome Texas Bull Rope match, the first ever women's televised Texas Bull Rope match, and I think that a lot of people forget that. That's probably one of my favorite matches that I've gotten to do there, just because it was so different, and we really got to tell this like blood feud, and all over a championship that neither of us could win, but neither of us were holding. And so to have such a stipulation match for a non-title feud, I think was huge at the time. And so I think that that first like 8, 9 months of my run at AEW were my favorite.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing to have like all these different like match types, like be so innovative and creative. Do you have one in mind that you'd like to be involved with sometime down the road?
Yeah, so now as the pure women's champion, to come back to Ring of Honor is also very special and sentimental and full circle for me. But I think now that I'm wrestling under pure rules, I would really love to have like a pure rules submission match, which is kind of the same by definition, but I think a submission match would be really, really cool. I don't know that, and I might be wrong. The internet will definitely correct me on this. If women at AEW have had a submission match before, I'd love to do it. I think that it's definitely right up my alley being the Pure Rules Women's Champion.
That's so cool. That's so exciting. I hope that eventually turns into something. Yeah, at the top of the podcast, I mentioned earlier that you've been very, very passionate about the world of education. You've been a history teacher. You're getting involved in different activities with the public school system. What made you decide to pursue that, and some of the cool things that you're doing in the community?
Yeah, so for education for me, I was a teacher before wrestling became full time for me. I was a preschool teacher, and I loved that so much. I loved those kids. I loved being able to watch them learn and grow, and like when that light bulb goes off in their head and they understand a concept. Like I just think it's so fulfilling, and it's such teachers do such selfless work. I also know on the flip side of that how getting supplies is so limited and how much money I spend out of my pocket being a full-time preschool teacher, but also trying to do the indie life. Like, I didn't have the extra money to be going and buying supplies and buying classroom prizes, but I did it because I loved what I was doing and I loved those kids. And teachers do that every single week on a yearly basis. And the tax benefits do not outweigh the cost. So for me, when I found out about Amazon's initiative to clear the list, which teachers create wish lists on Amazon with school supplies and hope that people donate and buy those supplies for them, it was like a no-brainer for me. It was like, been there, done that, know that struggle. How could I not use my platform and use the merch money that is just extra for me, but to help teachers across the country? So I've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years now, and been able to help hundreds of teachers, which feels incredible, to make their start to a new year just a little bit easier, and that start for students a little bit stronger. But then when it comes to my school district, someone had reached out to me recently, a couple weeks ago, about Jefferson Township School District is in a almost $5 million deficit, and it's not because money mismanagement. The state has sent an auditor in to go through the books and figure out how they could make up this money, and it just comes down to the funding formula that New Jersey State had enacted a few years ago. Jefferson has cut hundreds of teachers, they've cut programs, they've closed schools, and there's just no way to make up that deficit. So knowing that now busing is at risk for the children who are growing up in my hometown, knowing that athletics are at risk, which was such a big part of my childhood, I couldn't not use my voice to post a thing on TikTok or post a thing on Instagram and tag the new governor and say, hey, we need some attention here. And so the Highlands Impact Aid now is growing steadily. They've got thousands of people on Facebook. They've got hundreds and thousands of interactions on social media, and they've actually gained the attention of quite a few senators within the New Jersey state legislation. So I'm really excited to be a part of that, to head back to Jefferson soon. We're going to do a rally, and I'm going to be there for it. And, my nephew's in the school district, so it still is really close to home.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to deal with, because you have resources that are being taken away and you want to make sure that they're available for kids to learn and to access. So I think the education system is vital in society. So kudos to you for being able to step up, use your voice, get involved. And I'm sure the kids are receptive to you when they see you, in class or in the hallway. So, I mean, I'm sure they know about your wrestling background, so I'm sure they're curious.
Yeah, it's been really fun to just like tap back into that community, and a few people have reached out about going to the middle school actually and talking to some of the students, and so we're definitely working on a date to do that and just to give back. That was the town that raised me, and I still have best friends from that time of my life. So I want those kids to grow up with all the resources that I had, all the community I had, and build that confidence in themselves. And yeah, I wanted to be a professional wrestler at 9 years old, but I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the cheerleading coaches I had, if I didn't have the gym teachers that I had that believed in me, the athletic trainers, the extra athletic directors who made all of that possible. So they all helped build the Deonna Purrazzo sitting here today, and I want students of the future to be able to have that as well.
And you're also part of a benefit show coming up as well. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Battle for the Brave, a wrestling showcase for heroes benefiting Tunnel to Towers. My husband and I joined Tunnel to Towers about a year ago. We filmed two separate PSAs for them to raise money for fallen first responders and catastrophically injured veterans. And so it's a obviously really close to heart organization, as my husband is a United States Marine Corps combat veteran. We want to give back to that community again, and Tunnel to Towers is the best way we think to do it. This is going into the anniversary of 9/11, we're building towards that. And so to be able to run a wrestling show, which is the first of its kind, to be able to raise money and raise awareness is so right up our alley. We're happy to be able to combine both of those two for such a great cause.
That's fantastic. Good cause, good entertainment. What can be better than that?
Yeah.
And so what is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
I think that we've been given this platform, right? And we're not going to be able to wrestle forever. So what can we do now while we're in the spotlight to help these communities that are underserved. Our teachers are underserved. The children of Jefferson Township are now being underserved by the state of New Jersey. Our veterans are completely underserved. And I see that firsthand every day through my husband. Our first responders are underserved. And when they're risking their lives every day, and a lot of them don't make it home, why should their mortgages or the ability to have a handicap disabled smart home for our veterans not be possible? And so the mission with Tunnel to Towers is to give back to those people who are underserved and to make sure they feel appreciated for all of the sacrifices they make for our country. So I just think that we've been given this platform, and it would be selfish of us to not use it for the greater good of our world.
Yeah, I mean the power of social media. I mean that's a very powerful tool that it's just so new and people are using it for a good purpose in this case. So
Yeah.
again, being able to have that is very, very unique and very important to spread awareness about this cause.
Yeah, well, thank you. It means a lot to us. And, we're excited to be able to integrate wrestling into that. And I think that the wrestling community has been so receptive, which was so nice to see. And, as we're talking now, we have so many big announcements. And we have an amazing lineup of talent that are excited to be a part of it. And yeah, it's just the blending of both worlds that we're like, Steve and I never thought we'd be running a wrestling show. But what a better opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling to be able to put on a show for a cause that's near and dear to your heart. Um, do you have any future goals in the wrestling business that you haven't achieved yet?
Yeah, as we're talking, have not defended my Pure Women's Championship. So I would love to get my first title defense underway. Um, I think that have been able to accomplish a lot of things in wrestling. I got to be the first ever Knockouts World Championship pay-per-view main event. I've been able to main event Dynamite before I was even contracted to AEW. Being able to be, kind of one of the people who rebirthed Women of Honor back in 2015. I've had a lot of really special moments, but I think that I'm still fighting to prove that I have a place 14 years later in this industry, and I would just love to be able to do that on a grander stage. And so defending my Ring of Honor Women's Pure Women's Championship is number one in that. Number two, obviously, I'd love to be back on Dynamite or Collision and in contention maybe for the TBS Championship, for the AEW Women's World Championship, for our new AEW Women's Tag titles. I'd love to be in contention and in the mix on Dynamite or Collision. But I think way in the future, one of my goals is to learn how to produce and to be an agent backstage. I get to see Madison Rain do it on a weekly basis, and I know how much she loves it. And I think that I could also love it the same when I'm ready to take my wrestling boots off and put those boots on.
I could totally see you pursue one of those paths because women's wrestling it's growing, right? There's a huge demand for it, huge market for it. You see it in all companies right now, stacked to the brim with talent doing incredible things. And it's not just the women on camera in the ring that you see doing really well. It's the people backstage that are, I feel like, are helping them guide them along as well through these matches. So I think more women involved with creative and producing, I think that's just as important as the women competing as competitors in the ring. So
1000%. And we couldn't look as good in the ring if we didn't have the people backstage backing us up. 1000%. But I think that for women in wrestling, we've talked so much about this like transformative journey of women from back in the day to now, and we're still fighting for those roles backstage. I think having women in creative is paramount to the success of women. I would love to do that because I have so many better ideas for people who aren't myself, and I see a vision for other people before I see it for myself. I think that would be something that I would love to do. But yeah, I just want to help that next generation. I want to watch them grow and develop the way that my mentors helped me, and obviously that's something I'm really passionate about. So I'd love that one day.
yeah, I think the sky's the limit, and so I could totally see you pursue that. Once again, Deonna, this has been wonderful getting the chance to have you on. Wrestling with Heart means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about you on social media and how they can get involved in these pretty exciting ventures?
Yeah, well, everyone can follow me personally at Deonna Purrazzo on Twitter and on Instagram. Everyone can follow T2T Wrestling on Twitter and Instagram as well to get more updates about our upcoming Battle for the Brave, a wrestling showcase for heroes. It will be in Rahway, New Jersey. And then everyone who's interested in learning more about the Highlands Impact Aid and the Highlands Act and how it's affecting towns like Jefferson Township in New Jersey can follow at Highland Impact Aid now on Instagram.
All right. Well, thanks again, Deonna, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.